I'm going to be recommending documentaries about the Black experience in the Americas because it is Black History Month. Basically, I really like learning about people. I like educating myself on history and stuff. But reading nonfiction books can be a little bit slow for me, and I don't finish them all the time. And documentaries are just so great because I get to watch them, I get to learn, and then I get to recommend them with you guys. So the first one that I want to recommend is quite popular. You might have heard of it before. It is called Paris is Burning. Basically, you have like a lot of Black as well as some Latino LGBT folks in New York who are poor, and then they get together and they have these balls. The documentary is about ball culture, but it's also about having dreams and about expressing your wants and hopes and dreams onto the world and like having people validate that. I loved when they were showing like executive realness at the balls, and I heard, I think it was the judge or somebody speaking in a voiceover about how like a lot of times Black people, they don't have the opportunity to become executives, but by dressing up as an executive and acting like one at the ball scene, then they're like portraying this image that Black people could become executives. I watched it, I loved it, and then I watched it again with the audio commentary with the director and with some of the people in the documentary. And one of those people, he was challenging this idea that the documentary was sad. And I definitely got that impression when I was watching it. It was like, it made me want to cry in some places. Of course, some places are sad, but he was questioning this idea of why is it wrong for Black people to have dreams? When you watch the documentary and they're all talking about the dreams that they have, they're very normal. They're what most people want. So why would you feel sorry for them for wanting those things? And he was right in that, you know, they should want those things. They deserve to want those things. But it was sad for me watching this 3 decades later, knowing that some of those dreams didn't come true, knowing that some of these people had died not too long after the documentary was released, and some while it was still filming. In addition to the documentary being about dreams, it's also about family. And I love that because these are people who face double discrimination. They face discrimination because, or not even just double, triple. They're poor, Black and brown, LGBTs. In a lot of ways, the outside world marginalizes them and oppresses them, but they can all come together as a family. I highly recommend watching it if you haven't watched it, and if you have watched it, recommend watching it again with the audio commentary. So the second documentary, I have recommended this other documentary before, Murder on a Sunday Morning, when I was talking about like my 5 favorite documentaries. Yeah, so this one, it is about one 15-year-old boy who is being accused of murder, and he is on trial for that. It was pretty messed up. This kid was coerced to confess because he was beaten by the cops into signing a confession or something, and the documentary is just all about the trial of this one case. Very well made, very tense, because I didn't know how the jury would rule on this, and yeah, I highly recommend it. And speaking of the criminal justice system, I'm sure you're all aware of 13th, which aired on Netflix, and a lot of people are saying really good things about it. Basically, 13th refers to the 13th Amendment, which abolished slavery in 1865 in all cases except for punishment for a crime. So it's all about how the private prison system exploits black prisoners. Yeah, definitely recommend watching that. Also, there was a Pulitzer Prize winning book called Slavery by Another Name, which is also about the topic. But the difference is that 13th mainly focuses on like the war on drugs. So about like the 80s until like nowish, while Slavery by Another Name focuses on post-slavery, the 1860s until about World War II. And now a lot of black people are being like arrested for drug possession, stuff like that. But back then, people were arrested for like random shit. It's like you're basically standing in the wrong place at the wrong time and you're black, so I'm gonna arrest you and make you like work at my fucking coal mine. And they interviewed a woman, a white woman, who's like great-great-grandfather and great-great-grand-uncle or something owned one of these coal mines. And before the book came out, she was told this lie that her ancestors were these self-made men. They had followed the American dream of coming from nothing and being successful because they worked hard. But really, they were so successful because they exploited black people. So, you know, that's the American reality. There's a documentary series, oh God, I love Henry Louis Gates Jr. I have to say, I think he is like so cute, adorable. He has this one documentary series called The African Americans, Many Rivers to Cross, which goes over like 500 years of black history in the United States. It's quite interesting, but as you can imagine, I think it's only like 6 episodes long, so he definitely cuts out a bit. I think Malcolm X only had like 2 minutes in the whole. I think even less than that. But anyway, if you watch Many Rivers to Cross and you think, you know, I would like to see a lot more on the civil rights movement, you should definitely watch Eyes on the Prize, because it is a 14-part documentary series going from the mid-1950s until the 1980s, which was when it was released to PBS. And since this was made in the 80s, that means that people who were in the civil rights movement, a lot of them were still alive. I keep watching the 10th episode over, which is about Martin Luther King Jr., his last year. I feel like when people focus on Martin Luther King Jr., they either talk about like Montgomery Bus Boycott, March on Washington, or Selma. Those are all well and good and important, but they don't focus as much on his later years before he died. And yeah, this one does. Talks about like his alliance with the sanitation workers, how he advocated for poor people, and how he was against the war in Vietnam. And that was a very risky position for him to take, because he had like an alliance with the president, LBJ, but when he said, you know, I need to criticize my own government for perpetuating this violence, not just towards black people in the country, but towards brown people outside of this country. That was really controversial. There are some people who, they were supportive of him when he tells other black people to be nonviolent when they're dealing with Jim Crow and oppression. But when he tells the government to be nonviolent towards brown children in Vietnam, suddenly they criticize him. So I think they had a whole episode on Malcolm X, which was like Malcolm X and then like the Black Power movement. Oh yeah, also the first episode's about Emmett Till and Montgomery Bus Boycott. And I don't know if you've seen in the news, the recent news about Emmett Till. He was basically murdered for whistling at this white woman and saying, "Bye, baby." But then this white woman said that he never actually hit on her. Even if he had whistled at her, you know, that's not the appropriate response to that. But of course, this is typical. Like, so many lynchings happened because white women lied about black men, like wanting to rape them or hitting on them, when really it happened the other way around. This stuff makes me angry. But yes, Eyes on the Prize. Henry Louis Gates Jr. had another documentary series called Black America Since MLK. But I haven't been able to watch all of them because they're locked on PBS unless you have membership. So, 2 more. Black Panthers, Vanguard of the Revolution. It's on Netflix. Check it out. I encouraged my white uncle to check it out, and he did, and he said it was really good. It made him angry at the FBI. I feel like that is so important to learn about what the FBI did to the Black Panthers with COINTELPRO, and you know, what they did to poor Fred Hampton. It was just fucked up. Like, you guys need to watch that documentary. Also, another Henry Louis Gates Jr. documentary is Black in Latin America. So there is an episode on Haiti and the Dominican Republic. That one was my favorite episode because, like, Haiti had that slave rebellion. That was very fascinating for me. Definitely watch that episode. Also an episode on Cuba, Brazil, and Peru and Mexico. The Peru and Mexico one are the same episode. So I heard Henry Louis Gates Jr. say it's weird how in America we know more about England and France than we do about our neighbors to the south. And that's true. That's definitely true. And yeah, I guess those are all the documentaries that I want to recommend to you today. And have a great Black History Month. I will recommend some things for you to read soonish. Watch out for documentary recommendations for Women's History Month. And yeah, bye.